Welcome back to the channel. My name is Andy and today we will be replacing the camshaft control valves, also known as the cam magnet adjusters, on a SEAT Leon Cupra from 2015 with the legendary EA888 Gen 3 engine. Both the intake and the exhaust side have a control valve. For me this is preventative maintenance. They are quite inexpensive to change, about 30 euros each. And they can be replaced pretty easily by yourself at home. Each camshaft control valve has a electrical connector, which should be disconnected of course, and 3 Torx rods, which are T30. That's the only parts that you will need to remove. I started doing that in the video. As you can see, the space is quite limited, and that is what makes this job a little bit difficult, but not too bad in my book. As you only have a couple of components to remove, the tools that you need are also quite limited. As you can see, I'm using a 1/4" drive ratchet. The smaller the better in this case. As you can see that the space between the engine and the chassis is quite limited, and that is where you need to remove the 3 Torx T30 bolts. Again, the space is limited, so you will need all the tools you can get. In this case, the wobble extension comes in handy. As you can see, this allows me to work in an angle which allows me to remove the bolt quite easily in the end. As you can see, I'm struggling quite a bit to get access to the last bolt, so I think I need another tool for this. Let's see what we have. I grabbed my flexible extension part for this. This allows me to get into the angle to remove the last bolt. As the bolt is almost out, I remove the ratchet and undo the last part by hand, just to make sure that I don't go too fast and drop the bolt in the engine compartment, which will make sure that you will have a very bad day for quite an easy job. As you can see, there we go, bolt extracted. Let's go for the other bolts as well. And there we almost have bolt number 2. There we go. And the last one is hidden underneath, which is hard to see of course. Just work slowly, making sure that you don't drop the bolt. And there we go. Now grab something to pry the cam magnet out. A flat blade screwdriver works perfectly well. I used the electrical part of the connector to start prying, but I don't recommend to actually pry between the 2 plastic parts of the cam magnet and the engine cover. As you can see, I used the flat blade only to pry it out a little bit, and then I jumped over to a plastic wedge, as we are dealing with plastic components as well, so it's safer to use plastic on plastic. Time to wedge it out. Just go slowly and the cam magnet will drop out by itself. I highly recommend to put something underneath the cam magnet. I will make sure to do that once we go to the exhaust camshaft. You can check the cam magnet by yourself, just holding it upside down and seeing if the pin moves freely. If it moves freely, then it's still a good part. Clean the surface area a little bit before you install the new camshaft magnet. Time to grab the new camshaft magnet. I went with Febi Bilstein, which is a brand I trust. I leave the part number in the description so you're able to find it yourselves. If I do the tests again, this one moved a little bit more freely, which is to be expected of course. I normally document my work, so I know when I installed a certain part. I used the paint marker for this and I added the installation date. For me I only use the month and the year when I installed it, which was done in April last year. I added an extra letter, the letter I, which stands for the intake side. It's time to install the new valve. Gently push it into place and make sure the bolt holes line up. That will make the installation way easier. The orientation is that the connector should point left upwards, and then you're in the right spot. As an optional step, add a little bit of thread locker to the bolts. I really like doing this because I don't want to do this job twice, and a little bit of thread locker goes a long way. You only need a little bit, don't overdo it, as these bolts are only secured with a low torque spec. As always, start the bolts by hand, as this prevents cross-threading. Then use the T30 Torx bit to snug up the bolt. And repeat this procedure for the other bolts. Again, only a small bit of thread locker is enough. This part is a little bit hard to see, so I will skip it a little bit, but you will get the general idea. Just thread them in first by hand and then snug them up with the extension bit. The left bolt is the hardest bolt. Again, be careful not to drop the bolt, as this will make this procedure a lot longer than it needs to be. Just work slowly, start by hand, and snake your way through the hoses, the coolant hoses and the fuel hoses under there to get through the bolt, and you should be okay. As you can see, the flexible extension works great for this type of job. It's time for the final bolt on the intake side. Again, add a little bit of Loctite and get ready to start the bolt by hand. Now use the flexible extension, and after that use your ratchet to snug the bolt up, and then we are almost ready for the final torque on the intake side. The official torque spec for the T30 torque bolts is 9 Nm, but I went with good and tight. And that concludes the intake side, except for the electrical connector. The exhaust side is the same procedure, so I'll speed things up and save some time along the way. First, let's remove the electrical connector, which gives you much needed access to the 3 bolts. Identical as the intake side, one of the bolts was quite hard to reach. I used the Torx key to remove the bolt. As I mentioned earlier, I learned from my mistakes and this time I put a rag under the magnet. You know the drill by now. Let's unpack the new magnets, and of course the part number will be left in the video description. And the letter E is added for the exhaust side. I used the same technique as with the intake camshaft magnet. I used a flat-blade screwdriver to pry it out first, and after it has become a little bit loose, then I used the plastic wedge again to actually remove the camshaft magnet from the cover. Be sure to clean the surface area a little bit and keep the oil leaks to a minimum, and then you're ready to install the new camshaft magnet for the exhaust side. The same procedure applies over here. Add a little bit of Loctite, start the bolt by hand. When all 3 bolts are in place, snug them up evenly and then apply the final torque of 9 Nm or good and tight like I did. Don't forget to connect the electrical connectors, and that is another job well done. Thanks for watching, and I see all of you in the next video.